Hi there. I'm Ed Bellino.
And I'm Alvaro Cuba. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are listening us.
Whatever time zone you're in. So,
Yeah.
Ed and Alvaro, I always get tempted to say the Clackett brothers because that used to be an NPR show of two car buffs. We're not the Clackett brothers, but we're kind of manufacturing folks that want to join you and maybe have the opportunity to answer some of your questions. Can't always guarantee the right answers, but we will give you an answer, right,
Yeah,
Alvaro?
that's for sure. And we were discussing with Ed prior to the show, no, the importance of this ask me a question. We wish we would have that in our all times, where just sometimes you don't have, and you want an external perspective, and you just throw it out. As Ed says, we always have an answer, not always the correct one, and someone will be a laugh, but yeah, we'll do it, and the show really gets interesting if it brings your inputs and the ideas that you are experiencing or the things that you want to know or things we just want to chat. This is a meetup, very casual, and that's the idea. So please send us your questions, your jokes. We can tell that your jokes on the podcast and anything that's crossed your minds.
Yeah, we want to make this fun. We want to make it interactive, and it's really about you, right? Stories. Think of us as two manufacturing buddies that are sitting at the coffee shop after a hard day in the plant, and maybe you just joined manufacturing a few years ago, and you want to tap a little bit of experience that we've gathered over our decades in manufacturing for some ideas. I kind of compare this to whenever you have a chance to go to another manufacturing plant. Um, every single time I've walked into a facility, I learned something new. Every facility has a little trick that they're really good at, and sometimes that information doesn't get shared widely. Right? This is your opportunity. Let's share this knowledge that'll make manufacturing a much more interesting place for all of us. So, welcome to the Manufacturing Meetup podcast, the show where we kick back on our downtime and get real about efficiency on the plant floor. So, a little bit about our backgrounds, right? And if you want more details, refer to our previous podcast where Alvaro and I go into a little bit more information about our backgrounds. But I've spent roughly 40 years in manufacturing for three CPG companies: Procter and Gamble, Scott Paper, both paper making. I held paper making roles there, and then joined Pepsi in '95. Worked there for 25 years, retired. And since I wanted more, I came back out of retirement to do some more consulting work for the beverage industry and kicked off a business doing filler wrap rebuilds with my sons at the beginning of the year. So it's been busy, and I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime here, Alvaro Cuba, because he has an even more fascinating background than I do, if that's possible.
No. Equally fascinating background. Anyone in manufacturing, I'm sure, has plenty and plenty to share and discuss and all that. But we are lucky, my friend. No, we are lucky to have this experience in manufacturing. And I can tell you that because part of my background has been diversity. I've been in manufacturing, but I'm also been in logistics, in sales, marketing, GM. Had the opportunity, thanks to manufacturing, to work in 6 countries and, lived in 6 countries and work in many more, and also in different industries. And all thank you to manufacturing, which is where I started. So as Ed says, it's plenty of opportunity. If you are open, you are curious, and you put yourself in, it's a wonderful career. And yeah, we want uh, to share it with you, our experiences and our thoughts. So let's go into it. Let's say you found a technology that you think will help in the plant. How would you sell the idea to senior leadership? So I will say two or three things that come to my mind is one, if it's really helpful in the plant, for sure you will have data. It's important. The second one is the company has its strategy, and the senior leaders are point to that strategy. So when you want that, and that's sometimes different than the plant. No, in the plant, probably you are talking about GE or safety or quality. Senior management is probably talking about more sales or bottom line or cash flow. No, so translate your results and the benefits into what senior management is is looking after or is working for. No, then it's going to be much easier for them to understand the impact in the business, not only in the plant but on the business. And the third will be hard data, but also uh, technology today brings benefits in many levels. And Eddie and Ed and I always talk about this. No, you can get OEE, but for sure you are impacting safety and you are impacting quality and you can impacting morale. So bring also those elements into the discussion with senior management because they normally are seeing the big picture and the impacts in people, in business, in customers, consumers, and across. Ed, your
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, no, you're spot on. I mean, the benefits that you get from employing technology to leverage your results are very widespread, right? Even when it comes down to morale of the workplace. If you have less failures, right, there's less cleanup, there's less inherent danger in exposing folks to, sharp objects, et cetera. So it really does help leverage across the whole supply chain. And one key topic these days, right? We all want to be better when it comes to sustainability, right? And carbon footprint, et cetera. And sometimes, frankly, I struggle because I see companies spending a lot of time and energy, as well they should, right? On on pinpoint sustainability solutions, which are great. Solar, cogen, et cetera, leak detection. But in some cases, I wonder if we wouldn't get a bigger return on our sustainability efforts if we put some of those resources to work on getting our lines to run better. Because we all know a good running line generates less waste. It uses a lot less electricity and whatever other utilities you use. So that was a quick aside. But specific to this topic, the two things that I would add, one is don't get enamored with the technology, right? I had a conversation with a technology company, and they were asking me. Had been their customer. I said, "So what do we need to do different?" I said, "Listen, you're a bunch of really, really capable and smart folks, but you're trying to explain to me what happens in your black box when you gather the data and how you put that to different places. At the end of the day, most of us are intellectually curious, so we want to hear and we're interested. But after about 2 minutes of that, I'm like, I got it. Not real deep, but enough to understand. Show me what you did for me, right? So show me how that piece of equipment that you were monitoring, right?
Show me the money.
Show me the money. Absolutely. And the higher you go up the ladder, right, the more is, oh, well, we were going to prevent this motor from failing. Well, that's great. So you got it. How much did we save? Well, the motor is probably $7,000, 5 hours of downtime. I mean, at the higher levels, they don't care what's in the black box. They kind of do, but they don't. They need enough to know how to trust it, but then show me how it really impacts. And one of the most powerful demonstrations that I had I had somebody trying to sell me some predictive technology, and I invited them to come to one of our plants, and I walked them out into our ammonia compressor area, which is some of the biggest equipment that we have. And I told them, use your tool. Tell me how these motors are running. Three of the motors, perfect, not an issue. On the fourth one, they detected an anomaly that came back 24 hours later as a bearing on the non-drive side of the motor that was starting to fail. Sure enough, a week and a half later, when we took the motor apart, we found cracked in a race. The bearing would have given out in X period of time, right? When I saw that, I was sold. I was like, understand your technology enough to get a sense of why it works, right? And now you actually showed me proof of concept in the real world that you probably just saved me 20 grand, right? So that put together really helps sell the story. I think most people now are tech savvy enough and open to new technology that what they don't want to wind up with is serial number one, right, on your plans. A lot of us have experienced that, and that's not fun. You don't want to be somebody's R&D project. But if the technology's got legs and is well established, absolutely, it's a great sell.
Yeah. And to Ed's example, that's the money. And if it's a constrained line,
Mm-hmm.
that's sales because
Yep.
that's volume, that's inventory, no? And I'm sure it also impacts quality. So
Right.
go for the big picture and go for exactly what they are looking for, which is related to the strategy of the company in that moment. We were talking with that, for instance, in pandemic, everything was about cases out the door.
Right.
Now things are changing. Things are more about efficiencies and productivities, no, or strategies to bring the production. It was we were discussing about the bridge that collapsed and in Baltimore, and the huge impact in supply chain. So
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, as you mentioned the bridge, right? If you think about it, over the last several months, we have had a number of supply chain disruptions, right? Past COVID, everybody thought, okay, we're good now. Well, we know what's going on out in the Middle East, right, and the impact it's having on ship traffic through Suez Canal, et cetera. And now we have this bridge situation in Baltimore. I mean, but these things happen, right? And the supply chain has to be resilient enough, to deal with those. 5 or 6 years ago, frankly, I looked at a number of AI, IoT companies, and there was a lot of vaporware, folks. It was like, oh, we can gather every piece of information from every sensor you have on your line, and we can show it to you. And I sat in a presentation, and what they showed me were some fancy Excel graphs. And I was like, not quite what I had in mind. And I have to use the analogy of the mama bird, right? I said, hey, think about me as a baby bird, right? You can't, if you're the mama bird, you can't give me a full worm for me to eat, right? You need to guide a worm, and I hate to be too graphic, but you need to chew it up and make it digestible for me, the baby bird. So as a manufacturing folks, don't give me the whole worm. You need to
more
chew
than
it.
daddy bird, but
Yes. So you're right. You're right. I was, you always see the mama bird, and that's in my head. But yeah, in some cases, bird too. So
and good you are talking about technology because that is exactly the second question. A, traditional vibration analysis. B, AI driven tech. C, combination of both, or something else. Floor is yours.
So, as you say in the show, so what's behind door number 3? So, I
Very
was
precise questions.
very precise. Yes, I was extremely fortunate that when I worked in the paper industry, I was exposed to vibration analysis. I ran a product supply system composed of paper machines and converting assets, and in this facility, we had 3 vibration techs. These folks had retired from the U.S. Submarine Service, where a lot of this vibration stuff was born because A loud sub or a broken down sub is usually a dead sub. So they pioneered the use of vibration analysis, which essentially is measuring the amount of force that a piece of equipment is being exposed to over a certain frequency. So how much movement, so amplitude, and also displacement. And I love these guys. They would come in and they would say, "Hey Ed, we just checked, tow roll number 2 in your paper machine. You've got a crack." They would be able to tell. Here's what we think the problem is. Here's the vibration spectrum. It happens at this frequency. It correlates with the. Anyway, I trusted those guys. They came into my office and said, "Hey, you got a problem? I'm shutting down." I worked for a person at that time that did not believe in vibration analysis, right? And I was getting ready to shut down our paper machine to preemptively change out a roll. This guy was my boss, came out. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm getting ready to shut down. We're going to take this out." He goes, "Oh, hold on. I was a maintenance manager for a long time. I kid you not. This man ran to the paper machine, put his hand on the bearing block, and said, 'Oh, we're not shutting down. This will run for weeks.'" I said, "Are you sure we have the data?" "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah." 9 o'clock that night, I got the phone call. We're down, the bearing went out. So I went into the plant, and at about 8 o'clock the next morning, we're starting up. And my boss comes out and says, "What's going on? How come we were down?" And despite my better judgment, I couldn't help myself. I said to him, "You know that bearing that you put your hands on yesterday and told me it's going to run for months?" "Yeah." 8:30 at night, I got a phone call in my house that it had ripped apart, and it took $50,000 worth of fabric with it. And he just looked at me, turned around, and walked away. So, believer in vibration analysis, right? And when I came into the bottling industry, I saw the opportunity, but we typically couldn't have a dedicated vibration analyst in our plants. And vibration analysis is something that if if you don't do it, and if you're not a professional in it, it's almost impossible to make sense out of the data you get. So, long way to say there is a marriage, right, between the traditional science of vibration analysis with AI, right, and the Internet of Things, as we want to call it. So, for me, the perfect solution was when I found a company that could gather my vibration data, right, without any interaction from me, send that information into an AI engine that would be able to analyze, compare the equipment to its history, compare equipment to theoretical vibration, data, as well as like pieces of equipment. That was the big deal. And then that actually got backed up by a vibration expert, an engineer that would make sure that the AI engine, responded correctly. And I fell in love with that opportunity because I don't need to hire full-time vibration analysts. I have a service that can provide that for me. Because going back to my answer on the previous question, I don't really care what goes on inside that little box they stick on my piece of equipment. And I don't know enough to analyze the vibration spectrum, but somebody can, and somebody can then provide me with the information I need to fix that piece of equipment and correct an issue before it creates a failure. So, yes, if you're large enough and you want to have a traditional vibration analyst or technician on your staff, go for it, right? Hugely effective. You have a person that can take those readings for you on an ongoing basis, very programmatic. Most facilities don't have that capability. And here is where remote sensing and an AI engine backed by human beings makes the difference. There are companies out there that will sell you a vibration sensor, right? That you put in a piece of equipment and it'll alarm based on some algorithm. I'm sorry, I've seen these things in industry, and they are the equivalent of the check engine light on your car. So when that goes off, the filler operator or the packer operator may go, "Oh, I got to shut down. I have an alarm." But that's as far as it goes. Now you're left to wonder, what was it? Was it real? What was the root cause? Was it, what's going on here? So those kind of check engine lights really are not very efficient and usually get ripped out in a short period of time. Many times because they provide a lot of false alarms. And, we're like the village. After the boy cries wolf about the second time and it's not real, we're done with it. We're like, we have no time for that kind of distraction. So couple it together. The technology, first of all, vibration technology, amazingly mature, right? The stuff goes back to the 50s, if not earlier. Um, but now coupled with AI, perfect.
I would echo what Ed is saying. No, his example with his boss, from touching to measuring, it was one leapfrog in the vibration and machine health. I think we are living now the next leapfrog.
Right.
No, it's from sensoring to this fully automatic sensors, AI, because the difference is not only that now the technology can give you 99% accuracy
Right.
on where, no, on the failure or not failure, but it also tells you when, no, artificial intelligence, which is the next generation,
Right.
is learning from what is happening, and based on that is forecasting what is going to happen. The value of that for a maintenance team or for a production team is huge, no? Because it's not only saying it's not failing, you don't need to change it. It's saying the next 3 weeks will not
Right.
happen. And most probably you need to prepare for the 4th week to do it. But next week I'll give you an updated. And then you can plan, and planning is money, planning is calm in the floor. There is many things that come with that. So, and Ed said, it's not rocket science. It's something you can do quickly and put it in your plan. So don't be afraid. Just go for it. It's a leapfrog.
Yep. As you were talking about technology, I just have to share with you my first exposure to vibration analysis, right, happened in a paper mill in Mehoopany, Pennsylvania, when I was a maintenance manager. And I went out, just doing the job I'm learning. I went out to do a round, with my maintenance tech, right? So for those of you that are in manufacturing, you know what this is, but essentially, when you have these large processes, you assign your maintenance technicians to walk a prescribed route maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every 2 or 3 days, right? Where they monitor these key pieces of equipment.
With his box and his sensor.
Well, this guy,
And the note.
it wasn't quite that perfected back then, because it was vibration analysis, right? Now, imagine a paper mill, very loud place. Everybody wears headphones, preserve your hearing. Okay. So I'm walking out with him. We walk up to the first motor, and he's got a broomstick with him. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. He goes up and he places one end of the broomstick, right, on the bearing housing, and the other end of the broomstick on his headphone, on his muffs. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, you can hear. And so he goes, yeah, you try it. Literally, you can. You can take a broomstick, put it on a bearing housing, put it on your earmuffs, and you can hear how that equipment is running, right? And you can actually hear bearing noise if it starts going bad. This person did this three times a week, right? Do you think they had a database in their head of what normal looks like? And sounds like absolutely. They may not have been a vibration expert, but that man, Bob Bauer, I still remember him today, knew what that bearing sounded like when he was running well. So, yeah, fun stuff.
Okay, one bonus question for today. And the question was, how are you using mobile devices today on the plant floor? So you just show it, Ed, and you mentioned to me one great example the other day when you visit a plant and you take the picture.
Well, oh yes. So I one of the surfaces I offer is called 2.5. It's a deep dive. So I will go into a plant, a bottling line, let's say, and I'll spend 2.5 days on the floor, essentially observing the operation, looking for anomalies or issues. And you're out on the floor. I don't like to carry a lot of stuff with me. In food plants, you're really not supposed to have anything loose above your waist, right? And you have to have all the proper PPE. So I take my phone with me. I use my phone. I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy. I use my phone, the notes feature, to write down what the anomaly is. So the dead plate on that depalletizer is set way too high and is causing drop bottles. And then I will take a picture or a video, and they form my report, right? I do a summary, kind of top line, but then I provide those notes with pictures and videos. And let me tell you, they are incredibly convincing. When I'm trying to show somebody how they're releasing pressure from a container after filling too abruptly and it's causing agitation, I can describe it. But if I can show them a video of, those of you in bottling will know what a sniff rail is, right? It's how you relieve pressure off a container after filling. If I show them their sniff rail exploding every time a container comes by because they're releasing the pressure too fast, I don't have to say much of anything else. They're like, oh my God, look at all that product that we're losing. So yes, this is an amazing tool. I just can't believe, all the uses this has.
I only, there is plenty of ways to use the mobiles these days. I'll just leave you with two. One, training. You can buddy someone with the mobile.
Yep.
You can share videos. You can talk live. And the other is, nowadays you go and see alerts. Actions come straight to your mobile. You don't need to be running around. No, everything is in one. You don't need to go look 5 screens, and it comes when you need it because it's the time to react.
Yep.
So plenty of ways to use the mobiles these days. And I'm sure as new technology comes, but also the new job force that is coming, they are very tech savvy.
Yep.
And are genius with the mobiles. They are going to bring much more ways to be efficient and effective in the lines, in the plants.
Yep, I agreed. I never thought that I would be FaceTiming somebody as they're showing me the transfer from their filler, right? I mean, something as simple as that, right? The slow motion capability on our phones to detect tripping points, it's insane.
COVID times, Ed, remember, in COVID times, everyone was videoing and mentioning and helping each other.
Yep.
So plenty of ways, guys. Thank you for participating, to watching us. It's great to have the Meet app, but remember, a Meet app is only valid if all the friends come around and we start bantering and discussing what happened to us in the shop floor that day. So please do that. Come with what happened to you that day and share with us, and we'll discuss. So if you liked it and you are in iTunes, please write us a comment and like us if you are in YouTube. And it has been a pleasure.
Oh, no, terrific. This is for you, by the way. Also send us like funny stories, right? Because I don't know, Alvaro
and jokes.
Yeah,
if you
joke,
want.
please. Yeah.
Manufacturing jokes.
Have to manufacturing jokes.
Manufacturing jokes.
Alvaro and I were going to go on the road and do like some mic auditions, with stand-up comedy, but we couldn't. We tried that. We failed. So we need your help to make us a little more funny. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this episode, please follow us, subscribe, give us a like. If you're on YouTube, leave us a review. If you're listening on iTunes, share the podcast with your friends. Again, the more the merrier, right? Eventually, Alvaro and I, believe it or not, will run out of material. There's only so much that we can remember from the last 40 years, okay? So anyway, look forward to seeing you next time, and ask us anything.
Yes. See you guys.